second? Okay, moved and seconded to approve the minutes from our December 5th meeting. Okay, the first order of business tonight is Bright Lights, academic and career planning. Love it.
All right, I'm actually going to introduce Amanda and Molly. Come on up. Yeah, and we're presenting. Oh, because they are coming.
Stall for us. So that it's working.
Well,
it's working.
Got it?
Okay.
I always screw up.
They're actually going to have your attention to the screen where the students are actually going to present through a broadcast, but I'll let them introduce the topic.
Thanks for having us tonight. When we spoke, I believe in September, you wanted to have a little update of academic and career planning. And with the cold weather tonight and the first day after break, we figured we would utilize the technology in our hands and have our students do a little report. One thing that's been happening across the district, especially at the high school level, is our students are doing what they call briefings. And they do a briefing every Monday to kind of kick off the week and deliver some important announcements. So we had some students from Waukesha South High School who gladly put together a black shirt briefing for the district and an update on our academic and career planning.
And in addition, in the handouts is a one-page infographic that we created for families and staff to utilize to speak to the academic and career planning. Just kind of as a nice one-page visual that really oversees what the purpose and the mission is. And that's also on our website. We also have a scope and sequence for the 6th through 8th already developed, and also on the website just kind of some benchmark things that the students are doing and completing as part of their portfolio. We'll continue that 9-12 moving forward. So that's just some information just about web updates. So we'll let the students speak to the rest.
Good evening, school board. Welcome to this week's edition of Bright Lights Briefing. I'm Tanner.
And I'm Steph. Here's what's happening in academic and career planning across our district in grades 6 through 12.
Breaking news, this year's academic and career planning lesson outline has created a tidal wave of change. Staff are reporting a better understanding of the overall goal of academic and career planning, more understanding of the importance of this program for students' success, and they're feeling more prepared thanks to the well-designed lessons laid out for the school year by this grade level. Let's take a look at what the high schools have to say.
At Waukesha West, the building leadership team is strong, motivated, and committed to ensuring successful implementation of this program. To help implement it, they have established teams by grade level to provide support to the staff. Mr. Lemieux reports that they are taking student feedback to design more meaningful experiences. They are finding more ways to customize and individualize based on the students' needs. I heard that the students are helping design lessons that will allow the student body to self-select areas of interest and needs as it relates to planning for their futures.
Oh, really? I've heard that they're trying to construct a professional development, like experience where students can have freedom of choice, where they can have a say, while staff were instruct for an area of passion. North High School staff reports teachers have bought into the concept of academic and career planning more this year than last year. In addition, student completion of the ACP lessons is higher this year than compared to last year. The dedicated time period has been a great opportunity to communicate school-wide events and happenings and to building a community and strengthen culture. This year we have the flexibility to provide activities specific to our unique student body.
North even brought in community speakers last week to talk to current seniors about different career options, and they have recruited a student panel to provide input with future lessons and planning.
Ms. Nordrum, Ms. Barrett, and Ms. Foreman from South believe that homeroom team is super cohesive and positive. This is improved communication with staff and meeting student and homeroom teacher needs. South feels more prepared this year and is seeing positive gains the more we reflect on each lesson. The student-focused energy of homeroom has brought about fun school-wide celebration and is just another positive contribution to South school culture. I mean, not to brag or anything, but black shirt briefing at South is pretty great.
At Horning, they're running a multi-age advisory. This means that 6th, 7th, and 8th graders are together. The students and teachers are enjoying the different groupings and using these groupings for more than just advisory time. Horning had an awesome first day of school kickoff that set the stage for the entire school year. At Butler, the staff feels confident in their use of lesson plans and outlines. A staff member creates quick tutorial videos on YouTube and posts them. He's kind of like a YouTube celeb around there. Have you seen his carpool karaoke video? It's great. They also use Google Classroom to deliver documents with students and teachers. This helps create a great workflow. To summarize, even though there can always be room for improvement, it sounds like the academic and career planning is off to a great start this year. All schools are reflecting on the lessons to make academic and career planning more purposeful for all students. When homeroom teachers receive feedback from teachers, they bring it to our district ACP team. The team continues to revise lessons to the next year. Of course, there is the issue of student buy-in.
Well, you know, we say things like, are we even getting paid to do this? Truth be told, some students truly are on board and can see how this will make their futures bright, while others are still in the dark on how these topics can impact their future success.
Next year, the district team is working on high school requirements, athletic codes, military expectations, and test prep for the middle school students. For the high school students, they're working on financial literacy and ACT test prep.
I just saw this on Twitter. There might be a rumor that there's a new feature coming to career cruising. It's called Inspire Southeast Wisconsin. It connects student with members of industry. Companies fill out profiles to give an idea of what they'll do, what kind of jobs they have, and post job openings. There is discussion boards where students can ask questions of people from the career that they are interested in.
So basically what you're saying, I can ask a real doctor questions about how to get a job and skills needed?
Oh, you bet. There's also career-based learning experiences where you can just request jobs, shadows, or even internships. It doesn't end there. Staff members can use tools to request guest speakers or panels or field trips to tour industries.
I also thought the district-wide college and career fair in October was pretty amazing. It was jam-packed with colleges, military branches, and local businesses, and many connections were made. I sure hope to continue the college and career fairs each year.
It's crazy to think that this year is almost halfway over, and I'm glad the district believes in our success and provides me with tools and resources to not only be college ready, but to become a productive citizen. Academic and career planning helps myself and my peers become responsible graduates. If I follow my plan, I will begin my adult life with the knowledge, skills, motivation, and self-direct plan for career and lifelong success.
And remember,
Stay classy.
So that was just a few, updates from the different schools as we get feedback and we meet with our district leadership team in terms of the ACP planning. And they've really taken this task to heart and really truly believe in what's best for our kids moving forward and making sure they're successful. We didn't have live students here. I mean, on a cold night, I can't even get out of my sweatpants most nights. So if you're interested in seeing what's going on in our schools, please let us know. Most Mondays, there's great things happening at any school in the mornings. We're happy to take you around, show you what's going on. But we're really seeing just tremendous momentum and a great community building that's happening in each building. So it's a very powerful time.
And one other thing, we are updating our parents quarterly with a newsletter that goes out via the school newsletter. Just what are some things you should be talking to your son or daughter about regarding academic and career planning? Here's some things we've done. So that will be coming out shortly here in January.
Any questions?
Okay, any questions? Okay, well, I have a few questions. Is this for seniors only, or is it for all kids, all grade levels?
6 through 12.
So you have activities at every grade level.
Yep, and they're designed specific to that grade level. So
Okay.
our middle school students aren't filling out college applications where our
Sure.
juniors would be.
Sure. How do you accommodate kids, being that they all have different schedules? When do you do this?
All schools have it built into their school schedule. So it's
Really?
every Monday it's like a third period for the most part.
So it's always the same period? Oh, interesting, very interesting. Do you expose the students to different careers?
Absolutely. They do a lot of career research where
Good.
they're able to go in and look at different careers. Some schools have also brought in some guest speakers. If we decide to go the route of Inspire, they'll be able to connect with industry leaders and different careers right through a discussion board.
Do the students ever go out of the building and observe any people that are employed by different companies or different careers?
Not formally as of yet.
Okay.
That tool will allow for it. We have to come
Okay.
up with a process for the district to make that happen, just
Okay.
in terms of field trip permissions,
Sure.
attendance, those pieces. But it's something that the students are exposed to kind of most likely in high school through co-op and internships right now.
So you have people come in?
A lot of guest speakers,
That's
yes.
great. That is really great. Anything else? Okay. Well, thank you for doing that. We think, oh, Ms. Branch, you
No, it's,
thank you for doing that. That's just such an important part of high school, especially as you move toward college. So thank you very much for everything you do to make that a successful program.
Welcome.
Again, we forgot to vote on the minutes. So all those in favor of accepting the minutes as presented, respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0. Okay, moving on to action items. Approval of the 2017, 2018 overnight field trips.
Right, thank you. So just one action item for your consideration is 3 field trips in front of you. Pretty routine, the South High School Trees for Tomorrow, the Eagle River, the Arts from South, 23rd year going to New York City, and the International Service trip to Mexico through Les Paul.
Okay.
So seeking action this evening for all 3 trips.
Okay, fine. Does anyone have any questions? Yes, Karen.
I was wondering, when it says our students are running a cafe every Friday selling coffee, tea, and hot cocoa, is the coffee, do we sell coffee to kids? Or is it to faculty? Is
I
that a
don't know.
normal?
Been in a cafeteria, I don't know.
I'm thinking of West High School's cafe, and I believe they have
think so.
coffee there too. I think we just have to fall under the constraints of the wellness policy, and every club and activity and sort of service project has to follow the general wellness policy guidelines.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Okay, 3 fun trips, and we're gonna go along to Florida, aren't we? Or to New York? We're gonna go to New York. Okay, can we have a motion, please, to accept the field trips as presented?
I move to approve field trips as presented.
Okay, second,
I'll
is there a
second.
second? All right, it's been moved and seconded that we accept the field trips as presented. All those in favor, respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, 4-0. Okay. Jody, would you like us to take us into the 2 information items, please?
Absolutely. All right. So I'm going to introduce to you Luke Pinion, and he might be a newer face to everyone. He's one of our newest directors in student services. You may have had some interaction with him through the expulsion process and things like that, but he does many more things other than that. And so this is an area I have to remind him that sometimes, but so he's going to introduce to you a few people that are going to talk to you about some of our mental health services in the district, and this is just going to be a really great presentation. So I want to thank the 3 of you for being here, and Luke will take it away.
Good evening, board. I'm really very excited to be here tonight to share one of my favorite parts of the role here that I have in the school district of Waukesha is helping develop and grow our school-based mental health services. So I would go ahead and let these 3 introduce themselves so you know who are in front of you today.
All right, well, I'm Sophia Kleinbiel, and I am a therapist who's located at 3 of the different schools here in the district. So I'm at Blair, Hadfield, and Waukesha South.
I am Mary Green. I'm a district social worker, or not school social worker actually, that works at Whittier. So I was here about a year ago talking about the PATH program at Whittier.
Hi, and I'm Marcia Lucan. I'm a psychotherapist at Family Service, and I'm also the supervisor for all of the people in Waukesha County that are in the schools.
So you've likely heard the acronym PATH. I know you've been presented to on this before. It has had a significant expansion this year, and I'm going to go into a little bit of history and then more about the details of the expansion this year. PATH does stand for Providing Access to Healing, and at the heart of this program is getting licensed psychotherapists in our buildings to work with our most needy students. Just talking about the why, there is an increase in student mental health needs across the country. Research shows us that about 1 out of every 5 students has a diagnosable mental health disorder in our schools and in our classrooms. The school-based mental health program that we have through PATH is intended to help remove those barriers to treatment. A lot of times students have barriers such as insurance problems, transportation, things like that that prevent them from getting to the actual site of the clinic to receive that kind of therapy. So this helps increase their access to mental health treatment, and it's the type of access that we don't really have the capacity to deliver in our schools. Our student service personnel don't have the time or the luxury of devoting, a full day or 45-minute sessions weekly to students for psychotherapy. This is also right in line with the DPI School Mental Health Framework. They've developed several different models to draw from in terms of delivering school mental health services, and this is right in line with one of those models that they recommend. And it is also a national trend. We're seeing growth in this type of service across the nation and right here locally as well. I know Family Service has expanded into Oconomowoc and Kettle Moraine as well. So it is something that has been growing across the country. Our partner in this is Family Service, and I'd like if you just kind of give a quick brief overview of who you are and what you do.
Okay, so Family Service is a nonprofit. Family Service is a nonprofit organization. It's been in the county for 50, 60 years. And it currently has 3 locations. There's one in downtown at the main office, then there's the Big Yellow House, and then there's facility in Oconomowoc as well.
The origins of this program, clearly I wasn't here when it started, but I did a little bit of digging, and it did start with a vision and a collaboration. I believe Jen Wimmer was kind of one of the individuals who spearheaded this at the time. RFPs, or requests for proposals, were sent out at that time to nonprofit organizations or were accepted when they started this venture. 2 different organizations, Family Service being one of them, put in an RFP, and both agencies that put in were put in our schools or in one school each. It didn't work out so well with the other organization, however Family Service persisted, and here we are today 6 years later. Our schools historically, up until this year, had to get certified as an extension or a branch of Family Service Clinic. So we were considered in the schools that we were in an extension of their branch and certified so. That law has recently changed and we no longer need to pay the application fee and get certified as a branch. They're allowed to be in our schools without that. However, currently they are all certified. They are under a billable model historically. This is where the development changes a little bit. Historically, we've only had Family Service in our schools under what they could bill, which is face-to-face time with students. So that need-to-need, face-to-face therapeutic time was really the limits of the capacity that they could serve in those buildings. They wouldn't be able to typically go to team meetings, consult with teachers, things of that nature because they couldn't pay for it or couldn't bill for it. That will change when I talk about the development we've had with the use of the grant funds. We started 6 years ago at Whittier with the billable model. They are currently in year 6 and have 20 seats now. So there's a therapist in that building quite a few days a week to service 20 different students throughout the year. Horning is in year 3, they're currently up to 12 seats. And Banting is in year 1, they have 4 seats. So you can see Banting being in year 1, we start small, there's a lot of front-loading work that goes into this. And that has maxed out, I believe, pretty quick. I know we have a Banting principal here too as well, but they're currently at capacity, so we would anticipate that be growing into subsequent years. And then I did just mention here that we do adhere to both HIPAA and FERPA guidelines in terms of legal confidentiality, ethical situations. They are a little bit different because they are private practitioners, so we have to follow both private practice regulations as well as public ones. That brings us to this school year. So I had the pleasure of working with the directors, Dan and Melissa, at the beginning of the school year on a grant called Helping Kids Succeed Grant. This was a grant through the United Way, and it's focused on 4 main pillars. That's student achievement and readiness, family stability and empowerment, educator effectiveness and retention, and community awareness and engagement. The PATH program got a significant slice of that grant, and we're really focused mainly on student achievement and readiness. However, we do touch on family stability and empowerment as well, because there's a family component of the psychotherapy services, and the family is a part of that treatment plan ongoing throughout the year. We were able with that grant to work with Family Service and get a psychotherapist, Sophia, in 3 new schools. So we have her one day at South, one day at Hadfield, and one day at Blair. So it's operating on a very different model. We're no longer limited to strictly students that have the right insurance and that are billed face-to-face time. Because we're funded with this grant, she can operate in a very different capacity. She can see students who are not insured. She can see students for a variety of reasons. She can consult with teachers. She can go to team meetings. She can be more of an integral part of that student's plan because she isn't limited to that face-to-face billable time only. So it's given us a nice freedom to have more capacity of that therapist within that building, and also to increase our staff capacity, because she's more able to freely work with the staff in those buildings. So they're gaining a lot of the knowledge through the therapist being in that building and being able to work with them, knowing that they're being funded differently, so that isn't such a limitation anymore. This is also a sustainable model. I get that question a lot. Well, what happens if and when the grant money goes away for this? We are setting a foundation in these schools, and like I said, there's a lot of front-loading work that goes into it. So the fact that they're established in these buildings, if the grant goes away, they can maintain their service in those buildings under the billable model again. So they've kind of broken through the threshold, so to speak, of that building, and they're able to still function should those monies go away. Our outcome measures is something we're cleaning up this year in terms of the different models out there and what United Way wants versus what we want to see. We did work collaboratively with the United Way and Family Service in developing these first outcomes. We're looking at the percent in number of children who displayed signs of developmental improvement in both communication skills, social skills, and their self-regulation of emotion. We want them to have a better understanding of the problems that they're struggling with, so specifically what is the issue they're having in school and at home in the community, and then a better understanding of that. We want to maintain appropriate or improved behavior at school, and find that resources were beneficial to the students so that they actually see benefit in this as well. Now this is going to look very different when we're talking about a first grader versus a senior in high school. We also want to increase communication and engagement with school and their child's education, so the family and the students' engagement in that school experience. We'll be doing this through a variety of surveys between the student survey as appropriate, the therapist filling out a survey, as well as staff that are closest to every school has a point person that's kind of the mediator to help facilitate this. We'll be asking them to fill out a survey as well. Current measures vary a little bit by site in terms of outcome. The goal would be for next year that there's one consistent measure that all the schools are using that we're in that is appropriate for the United Way to use, and that works for Family Service as well, so that we're all using a consistent measure moving forward. And actually, before I move on to this slide, I'd like if Mary would please talk. She's been through this on kind of in the weeds of this for the last 5 years, and she can kind of talk about how this has changed once you've been in a building for more than just a couple of years, if you don't mind, Mary.
I'll just take a couple minutes. I think one of the first thing when the program started, there were a couple students, a handful maybe of students, and Marcia was there that first year when I wasn't there. But the program really has grown. It's grown from 5 students to 12 students to 23 students, and now this year we have 20 slots. We have 2 therapists over 4 days. So in our program, other people in the school know about it, so teachers are referring kids. People realize that PATH is a resource. There are county workers who will call me from Department of Human Services. I hear you have this at Whittier. This would really be a good student. She's on my caseload. Really like for her to be able to get some help. And families are also hearing about it. So at Whittier, it's really become very institutional. And I say that in a good way, in that people know that it's there, people are accessing it, people know to either call school or contact me. And so we're really helping to service a lot of needs of kids, but needs of other people also trying to help kids. So we're pretty excited that Whittier continues and staff continue to be very, very positive about it. Students, there is absolutely no issue with students going to see the therapist. They are very happy. I have students courting me. Can I go to room 33 and make slime? Because my sister goes there. So I even have students wanting to go there even though they don't have a necessary need that the school has identified for them to go there. So it's definitely been a success at Whittier, I would say.
Thank you. Vision, we would like to expand as subsequent years come about. The pace would be grant dependent. Clearly, if we have more grant monies available, that may accelerate the pace a little bit. The 2018-2019 governor's budget did set aside specific funds for Wisconsin schools for school-based mental health. So we will be exploring that when those applications are released by the state. And then next to that, we would like to expand, but one of my personal and professional goals with this as well is this is a very intensive tier 3 support for students, right? It's a very select group of students with our most needy. We fully recognize and understand that we must also attack this from 2 different ends in terms of dealing with mental health, and that there are universal supports that also need to be cleaned up, and expanded upon as well. So that we're looking at this from both an intensive level as well as a universal student. What mental health first aid are we giving all students? What social emotional curriculum are we using for all students in our buildings? So it's equally, if not more important, to also make sure we have our eyes on that as well. And then connecting it to existing programs. We don't want any of this work to seem like more work, additional work. It should really be braided and woven into our existing system. So if schools are already using certain social emotional curriculums, this becomes a piece of that. If schools, have a very solid multi-level systems of support, this is a piece of that as well at different levels of support. So the goal really is to support all students' mental health, knowing that this is just a piece of that this program is just a slice of that support. What questions do you have for us?
Okay, Mr. McCaffrey?
Great program. Very important to meet these needs of these children, but how are they identified? How do they get into it? And who identifies them?
Well, I'll speak from a school standpoint. Depending upon the school, it usually is principal, the dean, the school social worker, the school psychologist, teachers. Oftentimes there's students who are having significant behavioral needs, significant discipline needs, or significant depression and inward acting kinds of behaviors. So it really is meant to be a program where lots of people weigh in on who might be eligible for that. And then, in my building, I'm the one that takes the lead and makes contacts with parents. So obviously nothing is done with this program unless a parent is interested in the program. But part of my job also is to talk to parents about what resources are out there, one of which could be PATH in the school, one of which is therapy outside of school. There's lots of other things. So it really is kind of a multidisciplinary approach to identify who would be good for this. And then one person, usually the point person, figures out who's going to contact the parent and make that contact and then go from there.
Is it ever requested by the parents?
Yes.
Or a doctor?
Yeah, I would say not a doctor. I would say other therapists in town who are aware that we have it, that the family's having a hard time getting to the appointment. I have had that happen to me, and I have had parents contact me directly. I've had the county Department of Human Services, their workers contact me directly, so.
So do you interact with Child Protective Services at the county? Is that who you interact with up there? Or?
It would be whatever county worker is assigned to a family,
Okay.
whether it's for child abuse purposes or truancy purposes or other family need purposes, so any of those workers.
And then the billable hours, who gets billed? Because in order to have billable hours, you need a bill.
So, billable hours. So, for me, I also work underneath the grant.
Right.
But I do have some families, so if they do have insurance, we do bill insurance for the service that's being provided. And also just to help offset some of the costs.
Right.
So that way, with the grant, we can reach more of the students, which is great.
Right.
That's the goal. So that's basically what we mean by the billable hours.
So say that the student that needs the help doesn't have insurance.
Yeah.
How is that handled? If it's not under the grant? Because Whittier's not under the grant, right?
Right.
And I know there's a lot of need at Whittier. So say that the child's parents does not have insurance. How does that work? Who?
I can speak at Whittier. We've never had that issue in my 4 years.
Okay.
So if insurance is an issue, I would work with the family in terms of why it is an issue and trying to help them get insurance.
Okay.
Or find other places in the community that provide help without having insurance, because there are some other places that do that.
Oh.
I have yet to ask Luke for any help with any families who need that, but that's sort of in my back pocket if I need it.
Yeah, most definitely. Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you. So you do serve students that don't have insurance?
We would definitely, yes.
Yeah, okay. Any other questions? Karen?
That was part of one of my questions. If we do lose the grant, who pays for this and when it goes back to the billable hours? So that answers that. And then why do we only have it at Whittier, Horning, and was it Banting or Blair? I think it's Banting. And I know it's because it's first starting out and because we probably only have the grants there. Why do we only have it there, and how did you choose these schools?
I can speak to the grant portion. So coming in this year, as we wrote the grant, one of the requirements was that the schools be 50% or higher free and reduced lunch. So we started from there for the grant purposes. I wouldn't be able to speak as clearly to the history of the schools that were chosen prior to me being here.
The only other school that has had it was Prairie, and then we, in wanting to have it the following year, a new principal came in, and he made the decision to not continue Path in Prairie. But we have, we are courting other schools currently, and there are other schools that are on board and that would like to begin the program probably for next school year. But right now, we have just the Path. We have at Whittier, Horning, Banting, and that's it. And then we have South Blair and Hadfield.
All right, I have a couple of questions. You have active programs really based on individual student needs, correct? Okay. Do you have some criteria that you use to make a student eligible for the program?
I would say the criteria really kind of varies depending upon the student.
Okay.
The students who are having significant behavior issues in school, they're having learning issues. We know that there's family issues. Maybe there is drug abuse going on in the family. Maybe there's been some discord going on at home, some of those things. But usually a student would pop up because they're getting discipline referrals. They're being talked to by the principal or the dean or the social worker on a very regular basis. They're having a hard time figuring out how to regulate themselves emotionally in the classroom, outside of the classroom. So there are criteria. I wouldn't say there's necessarily a checklist of criteria, but that's really what we look at. It's students who, whatever reason, aren't able to learn, aren't able to function in the way that we want them to in a school environment.
So I would assume that some of them are in exceptional education programs and some of them are not. Is that correct?
Yes, yep,
Okay, that's good. That's good. So therefore, it's available to everyone.
absolutely.
And how are
yes.
the number of seats determined?
Well, I think Whittier has just grown. So it started with about 5 students, and then that's grown up from there. And I think the 20 slots that we have pretty much are based on the last 2 years.
Okay.
And it seems to be a pretty good number.
Okay.
In the other schools, I can't answer that.
Well, at South Hatfield and Blair, I have 6 slots available each day that I'm there. And I mean, I think it's more of just like being able to have enough time. So I also have some time so I can be there for the teachers as well, for staff. So trying to kind of, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? Make it kind of, not equal, but like, so that I'm there and able to service different areas or different needs in this school. And we're still trying to get it to grow too, right? So it's the first year, but I think it's going pretty well already, so.
Usually what it's been when we're just going into a new school, we have, with the principal, we sit down and there's an arbitrary number that is just designed because they want to start small, they want to see if it's, if it's gonna work, the effectiveness of the program. If we do stay in a school longer than a year or two, you will see the numbers definitely increase.
So if a teacher feels that the student needs above and beyond what is provided in the classroom, then is it discussed with the principal and then the principal determines if the student is, eligible for help?
It's usually that team, the principal, it could be the dean, it could be the school psychologist or the social worker who's there. It's usually more of a team.
Good.
And then the student service person, usually the school social worker is the one who takes the lead on being that point person in the building to follow through on it.
So then the team receives referrals from the individual teacher?
Could be the team is just reviewing data or
Okay.
reviewing how students are doing, like in our student support service team. Every week we really view who are kind of the students that are having the hardest time, that they're getting the most discipline referrals from teachers. And PAC is one option. Obviously, talking to the parent, having the parent come in for meetings, having the elementary school counselor do some all-classroom lessons on second step. That's an option. There's a number of different options that are talked about with each student, one of which is PATH.
So are you employed by our school district, or you are not employed by the school district?
I'm employed by the school district as a social worker.
Okay.
These two ladies are employed by Family Services.
Oh, okay.
So I don't actually provide the therapy. I'm the point person. I provide everything leading up to the therapy
Okay.
and providing support to the therapist while
And
they're
so
there.
then you two meet with the students one-on-one, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
Wonderful. You know, listening to, or going over your outcomes and considering them, it would appear to me that just about any school could use your help.
Well, and what we've noticed, as we started in 2013, and, you know, we are now in, how many schools do we have?
So that's, 6 in Waukesha.
Six schools in Waukesha.
Wow, that's
And
great.
I will tell you, the person that is actually at Banting and Horning currently, the psychotherapist, I spoke with her today, and she was telling me that parents are actually excited about the program.
course.
And, you know, people in the community are hearing about this program, and they're asking to bring it to the schools. And so we're seeing less and less resistance in getting our program into new schools.
And isn't that wonderful?
It is.
That we have another way of providing assistance for students in need.
Yeah.
Great, great program, great.
Well, the other thing I would add to that, Marcia, is schools really are trusted places for most parents. Not all parents, but most parents. And so providing this service as part of the school, there's a trust factor. And parents also have a connection to somebody that most of them have known in a school.
Uh-huh.
So that increases the comfort that they have
Sure,
for this program.
Sure, wow. How many people work in your agency outside the district?
I think there must be maybe 30
Okay.
therapists.
Okay, but are you the only two that are doing this service in schools?
No,
There's others that do it,
there are others.
okay, but you don't have enough.
We don't have enough, and as of course, you know, once we acquire more schools and more slots, we'll have to bring on
More
new
people.
therapists.
That's right.
So,
That's right.
and that's just a constant thing, and it's another benefit to the PATH program. It helps the families that we serve, the underserved families, because many times they do not have the transportation to
Sure.
make it to the agency.
Oh, that's right.
And so, you know, they're there, the children are at the school, and so we come to the children instead of having the children come to us.
Yeah.
Well, don't some children leave the building and go for services?
Yes.
I thought so, because I was visiting a school, and that's what I noticed that day, that kids were going out, away.
And we've sometimes had children, they miss a half a day a week because their appointment
Uh-huh.
is at 2 in the afternoon.
Uh-huh.
And so they're missing 4 hours of school every week, whereas this way they're missing 45 minutes.
Uh-huh.
They have their appointment, they go back to class.
Sure, that makes sense.
And
Sure.
you know, we've also had the flexibility. Like I know at the schools that I'm at, you know, if a kiddo is having a rough time and I am not seeing a student at that time, sometimes I'm like, you know what? Instead of waiting till 2 o'clock to see you, why don't we meet now? So it's great because then I can reach a kid at the time that they really need the service the most.
Sure.
So
Oh, this is wonderful.
I think that's another benefit.
And just to give you, there are 9 psychotherapists that are going into all of the schools in Waukesha, up in Kettle Moraine, and in Oconomowoc.
Oh, wow, so you're not just our district.
Right.
Oh, that's good. We're saying kids have needs everywhere.
We really want
Yes.
to focus on
Yeah.
Waukesha.
Yeah,
That's-
sure. We're a bigger school district, and bigger the school district, the greater the need. Okay, any other comments or questions? Yes, Mr. Dietz?
First of all, how long is the grant for? How many years?
The grant's for 1 year. They'll allow a little bit of carryover into subsequent months, but it's technically for 1 year.
And does the grant provide any additional support for families of students?
The grant itself, no, it's left to the school district to use it in the spirit that the grant was written for in terms of those 4 areas.
And then finally, maybe just if one of you or all of you could address the biggest roadblock that you think you're facing right now.
With the PATH program?
I would say just like, well, for me, because I'm starting out at some of these schools, so it's the first year, so a lot of the families are getting used to it versus like where it's been established at Whittier. I think it's getting parent involvement. But, you know, as we continue to grow, I think what I can hear from Whittier is parents start to get a little bit more comfortable with it. Like, okay, it's trusted. It's been in the school for a couple years now. You know, my friend's child, you know, did well in the program. Maybe it'll be helpful for my child. So, you know, we gotta build that trust up.
Sophia's hit it exactly on the head. It's been consistently, the biggest roadblock for us is being able to have the parents come in and be with us. We're required to meet with the parents. We have to do an initial treatment plan. Then every 3 months, we're supposed to sit down with the parents to go over and update the treatment plan. Ideally, in a perfect world, we would like to be able to meet with the parents on a monthly basis, maybe even do a family session. It's not been like that at all. It's often been that we can't even see the parents ever again. We actually get their signature over the phone. And it's been a struggle, and we are working on it. If you know, Mary's been just phenomenal in helping us get the signatures from the parents, but that's been the biggest struggle.
I really just want to thank you for the work you're doing and the proactive approach that you're taking. I think addressing the needs of students and mental health issues that are out there, you're on the cutting edge, and I really appreciate all your extra efforts. Looks like it's really paying off. Thank you very much.
Why do you think that parents are resistive?
You know, I think for a lot of these families that we're reaching out to, you know, the biggest thing is it's hard for them to go and reach services. And it might be transportation, but it also might be, and I've had several parents have to call and cancel meetings with me because they're able to pick up another shift at work. You know, so there's kind of higher priorities for their family, and not that, you know, their child doesn't count, but when it comes to food on the table or meet with a therapist, you know, they take the choice that's the most obvious. I think that's one. And then, you know, there's also parents who, I mean, I've had a couple of families who feel like they really don't really want to be that involved in their child's mental health. So it's, you know, I think there's a lot of factors.
Sure there is. Sure there is.
So it's kind of a hard one to.
What have you seen in the parents that don't come? I'm assuming you see progress in the student, right? In school.
Yeah.
Doesn't
Yeah.
mean that it's carried over into the home environment, but you do see some changes in school. Is that correct? Well, that's good.
And I'm hoping as the year progresses, you know, the more phone calls I make with these
Sure.
parents to say like, hey, they're doing well in school, you know, we see improvement here, that might help to buy them in like, oh, well, maybe I will give you a little bit of my time because it is working. So.
Good. Yes, Ms. Rancher.
Thank you. Have you ever, and maybe this is for Mary, really seen a need for a child, but the parents say no?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, and I think in those situations, you just continue to offer it. And you continue to offer other options that will help treat the student. So oftentimes that's therapy outside of school. Sometimes that's assessments through Rogers Hospital or Aurora Psychiatric Hospital. You know, I can think of two parents off the top of my head. One did outside therapy, and one is just not following through very good with therapy, but following through with a psychiatrist. So it really kind of depends. The majority of parents, there is not that issue, but a couple there are.
And if they do say, if it's not being covered by the grant, and so let's say Whittier's not in the grant, correct? Is it any cheaper for them? Like, can we say, well, you know, it's only, let's say, $40 an hour versus outside the school, they'd be looking at $60. Is it any cheaper?
It's the same price because it bills insurance
Okay.
for us, so our parents really do not pay anything for it. Occasionally, we've had somebody with a deductible or a copay, but at Whittier, most of our families are Medicaid eligible. They're on Badger Care, and they don't pay anything.
Okay.
Badger Care doesn't pay for that?
They don't. The parents don't pay. Badger Care pays the complete cost.
Okay. Yes.
Getting back to the Prairie and the principals, are you in the schools at the discretion of the principal? Is that how that works?
Going back to the Prairie conversation, there was a readiness in between that goes beyond just the principal wanting it there.
Okay.
Was the school ready for it? There was need at Horning and there was need at Whittier.
Right.
And as a district, we felt that those were the two locations where the services needed to go at first. There was a readiness there. The staff was ready for it. The administrator was ready for it. At the time that it came out of Prairie, it was going from one principal to another principal. There was a transition there. The staff, the support staff that was in the building, it was a new setup. So that's why the decision went to those two schools. And now that's why we're expanding across the district.
Okay.
There was a readiness. We wanted to make sure that the kids, the staff, and the administration was ready to support this in the schools.
So the principal just doesn't say, I do not want it, and
Absolutely
it's not
not.
there. You guys are
There are
part of that
people, there are
conversation.
people over the principal who
Yes.
can help
Okay.
make that conversation happen, yes.
Thank you.
No problem.
I can tell you too that Whittier, half of our students feed into Les Paul, half of our students feed into Horning. And a good number of those slots at Horning were fed by fifth graders from last year at Whittier who were in PATH and needed to have the continuation of the program. So, having something that parents can go to and students can go to in the next level of school really is helpful to many of them.
Well, I'm sure you're touching the lives of some students that, would not get outside of school help. Number one,
Absolutely.
insurance. Number two, it's very expensive, and so there's a lot of kids that don't. But I'm impressed that we recognize, and for the number of students that do participate, that their families recognize. But I'm sure you agree that for some families, it's a pride issue.
Absolutely.
Big time pride issue, and they let that pride overcome them, and then the student doesn't get the services that are needed. But how wonderful that you're there, and how great for our school district to again address needs of students as needed. So, well, thank you very much for what you're doing. It's wonderful. Keep it up.
Thank you.
Okay, Jody, take us into the model technology.
Sure, I'm gonna have Brian, Wendy, and Kristen come up to the table, and they're gonna give you a little overview of our model technology classrooms. And so I just kind of want to forecast you, you've probably seen in the last year or two some model or anchor CLM classrooms around literacy instruction at the elementary level. And so
Okay.
you're gonna see that come up again in the next several months with some
Okay.
of our literacy classrooms, some of our math classrooms. So actually, tech is kicking us off here with the model technology classroom update, and they're just gonna give you an overview of what our teachers are doing to get there and to be sort of named a model tech classroom.
Hello.
Hello.
We've been asked here tonight to share with you our journey with our model tech classrooms and what we've been doing to kind of create an environment to showcase how technology can support the best practices in our classrooms. Part of it was really finding a vision for what that technology integration was going to look like and how it was going to take place in our classrooms. And one of the things we found is that teachers who are not comfortable with the tech really struggled to figure out how to use it in their classrooms. So the development of our Model Tech Classroom program was inspired to help support build comfort with the technology and also an understanding of its capabilities. Why would they want to integrate the technology into their curriculum? And really collaborate with teachers who can carry on and support that message to other staff members as well.
So if you take a look at this graphic that's here, one of the things when we think about teachers traditionally, we think about those bottom two circles. So we hire people who have really strong content knowledge. They know how to teach the subjects that they're hired to teach. And the other half of that is we hire teachers who are really strong pedagogically, right? They know how to teach kids, they know how to get great outcomes, how to really make that learning stick. The new piece to teaching in the digital age is this technological piece of it, which is that top circle. And you kind of see in the middle what we're really aiming for. The best teachers today are the ones who can kind of bring all three of those pieces together. The dilemma that we face is that we have really great examples. So as Jody was talking about, some of the model tech or model classrooms that are out there, we've got math and literacy coaches talking about best practices for teaching math, right? And how to teach kids how to read. We have things like AVMR training and model literacy. So we've got a vision out there of what the best instruction looks like. The same is true in the pedagogical side. So we have practices like AVID, which you've heard about, Project GLAD. We're bringing model AVID classrooms to our schools. Again, talking about how do we teach kids really well. Our focus with the Model Technology Classroom is to bring that same component to our teachers to understand how you use technology really well, because having the stuff alone, as we've said time and again, and you've heard this from us as well, having the stuff alone does not make the change. The change happens with how we use that in our classroom. You've probably also seen this from us. I know you've seen this from us. So this whole concept of the SAMR model keeps coming back, and you're seeing it pop up in more and more places. We're hearing more and more people talking about it. The real goal for us is providing a framework for people to talk about when technology is used really well, very meaningfully, to make more rigorous, more engaging tasks for students, and when technology is just kind of substitutive. We're always doing the same things that we could have done on a pencil and paper without that even, right? So these are the key pieces for our Model Technology Classroom. And if we're thinking about our goals of the Model Tech Classrooms, there's really two of them. One, for the teachers that we're working with in the Model Tech Classroom, we want to make the vision of how technology really enhances learning and makes it more engaging, authentic, and rigorous. How does that happen? We want to make that vision visible for anybody who doesn't have it. As Wendy mentioned earlier, for some people who are tech averse or just not sure how to use it in the classroom, they need to see it in practice. And then the other half of that, which is really taking off for us in this Model Tech Classroom, is the spread of those ideas. So how do we take that vision and spread it so that when people hear about it from the peers that they trust, that they work with, that they PLC with, that they can ultimately adopt that vision and bring that opportunity to their students.
As we started out with our Model Tech Classroom, it was really more of kind of an invite program or getting started, and we would chat with some teachers we thought might be good candidates, or somebody would be asking for us to come in and work with them and collaborate, and that kind of grew out of that process. We're now formalizing that a little bit more as an application process and looking to expand the number of teachers that we're working with. The idea behind it really is the coaching and growing of teacher practice. So they meet with us, we coach with them on a regular basis. We do planning together on the technology integration and look at that SAMR level, seeing if we can get some real meaningful integration, and sometimes looking at when the technology shouldn't be integrated in the activity because it's really not supporting what we need to do. And then we've asked them to really keep up with a blog and reflect on that growth along the way. One of our goals is that we don't come out of this with teachers that are shiny tech users and everybody else looks at them and says, oh, they're so good at that, I could never do that. We want to see that process and that growth along the way so that later on somebody else can say, well, they had the misstep or they had the thing that didn't work perfectly either, but they still were able to continue. We hope to have validation for those people as we move through this process where that SAMR thinking is really embedded and they get some more formal recognition through our district as our Model Tech Classroom and visits from others to see what it is that they are doing. We've had our first visit from some outside the district to come in and see what one of our Model Tech Classrooms is doing, and we hope to make that much more formal where others can go see what's happening in these teachers' classrooms. Here are some of the things that we look for as we're looking for our Model Tech Classroom, and we look to build these areas for teachers as they work through us, but really focusing on that growth and risk-taking mindset and including SAMR in their work as they are doing their planning, and then really willing to put systems in place to provide effective instruction in their classrooms and look at how that might be done. And all of our Model Tech Classrooms are looking at their buildings' high leverage practices and identifying great instructional practices to support that in their classroom, which we then hope spreads throughout their building and district-wide as well.
This vision is coming to life in Waukesha School District. Sorry, excuse me. These are the brave faces of our first round of Model Tech Classroom teachers. Each of them encounters their own journey through modification, so there isn't just one journey. Everyone personalize it for their specific content needs. They represent a wide range of grade levels in addition to multiple disciplinaries. Their initial meeting was February 1st of 2016. Currently there are 8 teachers who are
embarking on this journey, and we recently had our first classroom visit from outside of the district.
Are these people classroom teachers or are they specialists?
They're classroom
Classroom
teachers.
teachers.
Mhm.
We do have some specialists in the group, so
Yeah.
Katie in the middle is a music teacher. So everybody is eligible, it's just a matter of as we pick them up as we go,
Sure.
right?
And then throughout the journey of modification, our teachers are asked to pause and to reflect. The goal of the Model Tech Classroom is to create an environment that's open to visits and to observation. It's a learning journey, and reflection is imperative to document growth that's reflected throughout the journey. To honor their journey, they participate and they share their experiences, both positive and negative, in blog reflections. We encourage you to check out their reflections on our modifications to Journeys to Modifications blog post.
So that's the web address there, modificationjourney.blogspot.com. We can bring that back up in just a moment too.
And we thought it was important for you not to just hear from us, but to actually hear from the teachers who are going through the journey. So we're going to share with you a video made by Katie Miller, who teaches music.
All right.
Hi, my name is Catherine Miller, and I'm a kindergarten through 5th grade music teacher in Waukesha, Wisconsin. Technology is integrated into every part of my classroom, including music literacy, music response, and musicianship. My students and I have even found ways to incorporate technology into our concerts, like making trailers to introduce our songs, or using the green screen to make visuals for families to be able to watch and enjoy. Let's take a look inside my Google Classroom to see what we've been working on. In 5th grade, we've been using the annotation tools in Google Classroom in order to be able to record our thoughts about the nominees for the Best Original Songs from the Academy Awards. In 4th grade, we've been using the GarageBand app to create our own original songs. We used our name in the sampler to be able to finish a complete composition. In 3rd grade, we're just finishing working up learning the names of the treble clef staff, lines, and spaces. Students completed centers and documented their progress in their treble clef books. Once centers were complete, I was able to do a quick assessment using Google Forms. The best part about using technology in my classroom is it allows me to engage students in a way that I never have before, whether it's through personalizing learning or finding projects that they are able to use their creativity in ways I couldn't have even imagined.
And here we have some photos and an additional video from a day in the life in a Model Tech classroom. And one of the things that you would notice in this classroom or classrooms if you are in them is that the tech is really artfully integrated. The tech is used when it's instructionally appropriate. It's not just technology for the sake of technology. It has a real purpose in how it's being used, and it's never a replacement for good teaching. Thank you for joining us on our tour of our Model Tech program.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty exciting stuff.
Well, we've come a long way too, when you think, and you know, when we got the computers district-wide, you know, there was a lot of learning that needed to take place and continues to take place. So I'm very impressed with how far along we really are.
We moved a long way, and the exciting part is, and we're really seeing it with this crew, as they're working with other folks. So we've spent a lot of time with our Model Tech people. It's a lot of face-to-face coaching. But I'll give you the example of conferring notes. So we've got a couple of people who are doing conferring with students at the workshop, and they're just using their MacBook and they're taking notes as they go and keeping this record. We're calling them digital conferring notes. That is spreading like wildfire. It's something that we could have written a blog or gone and talked to people about, and it wouldn't have moved the practice at all. But you hear about it from people that you trust, that you work with every day, and that's where it takes off. So
Sure.
That's the exciting part about the Model Tech.
Sure. Any questions or comments from board members? Yes.
Could you put that website back up, modification journey?
Oh, sure.
Please.
What is it? Say it again. It was modifications.
Modificationjourney.blogspot.com. www.blogspot.com. And as Kristen said, and we just full transparency, we did not encourage them to get on and write a commercial for why technology is the greatest thing ever. And as you know, using technology, stuff happens. Like get funky screens like that on, things happen. So you will see times in there where there is an incredible amount of frustration coming through from the teachers, and we think that's healthy for people to see that and to know that that's a part of the struggle. The struggle's real on that, right? So.
Well, I found that, some students can teach adults, and, that's because of their experience with it and probably some parental help or whatever, but some of those kids are really, really adept at doing this. So would you say that the use of technology, I like when you said it doesn't replace teachers, and I think that that's a misunderstanding by many, many people not involved closely with education like we are, that it's a replacement, and it's not a replacement. It's just another tool, as far as I'm concerned, that enhances teaching and learning.
Absolutely.
And you can absolutely see that in the struggle with online schools and dropout rates and things like that, right? So the ability to really make a human connection is what people need as a part of their journey for learning.
Right,
Yeah.
right. We don't have, technology per se as a content area of study. It's a part of all the curriculum, correct? Okay, right, all right. Yes, Ms. Ranchik.
That's very humbling to know that even happens to you guys.
Far too often, yeah.
As much as we hate it when it happens to us and everybody goes, it happens even to the tech people. It's like, yeah.
So I would assume you're out and about all the time.
We're pretty busy. We keep a pretty regular schedule. We get our 10,000 steps in daily, so we're good.
Would you say that every school has at least one person that's pretty adept with technology?
In all of our buildings, that most of them have acquired a Vanguard team, and those Vanguard are really the front runners within their building in terms of learning and integrating technology and supporting some of that learning, and then we come back in and support that as
Okay,
well.
I guess I'm not familiar with Vanguard.
We started that when we started the Wave One rollout, so we had a core group that was helping to implement the
Okay.
technology in their
Okay.
buildings.
All right, fine, thank you. Okay, any other questions or
one
comments?
question.
Yes?
Is the model technology classroom, is that a distinction?
I think we're working to that, yeah, absolutely. That is a part, so when we first started this, it was a suggestion from a literacy coach who said, hey, we have these literacy classrooms.
Okay.
You should do something like that
Right.
too. We've really worked up to a point where I feel like we've got a very formalized process in
Yes,
place for
right.
people to go through.
Okay.
And so we've just started engaging in the last couple of months in that conversation about now that you've gone through all these hours, like,
Right.
now what do you do?
Yeah, right. What do you,
Yeah.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
How do you recognize it?
Right,
Yeah.
and a big part of that for us, and you saw that in a big part of it is, you might be really great with technology, but if your instructional, if your
Right.
pedagogy and
Yeah.
content knowledge aren't strong, you're not somebody that we would necessarily want others to come in and see. That's good, but we have other things to work
Yes,
on.
yes.
Fantastic.
And they really are
Great.
committing to being able to have somebody come in and view their classroom for technology at any point. And so that's a key piece of being a willingness to do
Right.
that.
Being an ambassador.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you finding the new teachers that come to us, they're more adept in technology than probably someone that's been around for a long time and didn't use technology?
That's a common question. I don't think I see that quite as
Don't
often.
see that?
I just don't.
Interesting.
And I think that's a part of what we're doing with the Waukesha One program in general, right? So just because a student can hop on a phone and get on a social media site doesn't mean they know how to be productive with a tool.
Right.
And so that's a part of it. Folks who, there's a greater willingness to often push buttons and a greater willingness sometimes to fail and try new things. That for sure we see. But I don't know that we immediately see a turn of face where people just get it and know how to teach with technology.
Do you think that colleges and universities that are preparing teachers require technology as part of their curriculum? I haven't seen it, so that's why I'm asking you.
I think that the preparation that classroom teachers get in terms of readiness for the classroom focuses much more on other areas than it does on the implementation of technology.
And that's amazing, really, because it's so important in classrooms everywhere that you would expect, teachers to come out being able to use technology as well as the art of teaching reading, but I guess we'll hopefully move in that direction as time goes on, because in the short time we've been doing this, I see marvelous things when I go out there in the use of technology and teachers using technology and the kids. It's very, very impressive. So a lot has to do with your leadership, so thank you for that. And thank you for this report, and please come back again and let us know, because this is real important to the board to know how technology is doing in our classrooms.
Will do.
Okay,
Thank
thank you
you.
very much. Okay, next we have student achievement update.
All right, so we're on a roll with excitement, and we're gonna end with some excitement, because I have the Banting principal here, Mary Garcia Velez,
She's a dynamo.
who has a lot to be proud of in her tenure at Banting. And so it's gonna be hard for her to sit in her seat when she presents, but this is well-deserved. Yeah, this is just really well-deserved for her school, so she's gonna give you an update this evening.
And I'm really glad the technology people are here just to make sure that I can get There we go. Okay, so very proud to be here to represent Banting, the most amazing school around. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the sale process over the last 5 years, starting really from 2013 until the present. Really, when we started in Waukesha with the sale process at the district level, I was fortunate enough to be on that team, and so started a little bit early in implementing some of the things that went on with the sale process into our school, and really looked at keeping the main thing, and taking initiatives from initiation to implementation to institutionalization. So that's what I'm going to be talking about. So in that process, as we started talking about the comprehensive literacy model, in 2014-15, we just started with one part of comprehensive literacy, and I'll just talk about the literacy portion, although we have literacy and math on here. We started out with thoughtful logs, and I'll take you through the whole implementation of thoughtful logs. Then the next year, we talked about another part of comprehensive literacy, the language workshop model, and then the third year, we brought on small group guided instruction. So there was literacy practices going on, but we were very intentional about how we were looking at these specific practices that were new to our staff members, and really taking them from just the starting phase to implementing them, and then to making it something that's the way we do business, which is that institutionalization stage. So, and I'll read these to you because you can't see them very clearly, just looking at thoughtful logs in 14-15, and we really have this for every one of the steps along the way. We started out with initiating that in 14-15 by just setting up thoughtful logs. These are like notebooks. We had 4 sections of these notebooks. Teachers had the opportunity to do this prior to the start of school. Then we said what we were going to do to make sure that we were implementing this was 3 to 5 times a week students were going to be writing in these thoughtful logs. Then they weren't only going to be writing, but we were going to be looking at the depth of knowledge of what we were asking students to look for about the things they were writing about. And then not only were we going to be asking them things that were at higher levels, but we were also going to be asking that their answers were really digging in deep as they were writing. And then thoughtful logs became the way we did business. So we started that in 14-15, and then 15-16 it was nothing new, and 16-17 it was, so now if you come into our building, you can see a thoughtful log in every single room in our building. So that just takes you through the step of how we started something and then continued on with it. Something that's very, very important in this process is really making sure that you're aligning all of your professional development to what's happening. Not to 50 million different things, but keeping the main thing, and aligning that all the way through. When we look at our results and how we're doing with our results, following this very specific process, this just shows you where we were in proficient and advanced in the forward. The results that I'm going to show you here, they are data, but I do want to just state that it is one measure that we're looking at forward, but when we look at our data, we triangulate our data and look at all different types of data. But this is just, I'm using this information to show you. So in math, you can see a number of proficient and advanced that we had in the blue in 16 and then in the red in 17. So if you look across the board, obviously from 16 to 17, we grew quite a bit. If we want to look at our report cards, and again, I want to caution that accountability report cards are not everything. They are one measure. But when we look at 13-14, when we started this, we were at meets expectations of 68.2. Then in 15-16, we were at exceeds expectations. And most recently this year, we're at significantly exceeds expectations. So our number has gone up consistently. But I think what's more important than looking at this, although I can say I was pretty excited when we hit significantly exceeds. I saw it first 9 o'clock at night, was screaming in my library before I was able to share it with my staff. This I think is even more important. So this is just a portion of that report card that you can see in a very long report. But if you look at Banting student growth, in 13-14, our student growth is the first number. The second number is the district's number. In 13-14, we had 68.7 out of 100 for student growth. Then if we look for student growth the next year, 15-16, that was the next year that they had tests, we're at 84. And if you look at 16-17, then we're at 95. So our student growth, how our students have grown, has just jumped from year to year to year. And I really attribute that to keeping the main thing, to aligning our professional development to intensively what are we focusing on, and then moving that forward. When we have too many initiatives in front of us, we can't do any of them well, and when we stick with what the main thing is, we're meeting the needs of students, and students are growing, which it shows there. So, one last thing I just want to share is something that we're doing. We were talking about students' mental health, and something that we're doing at Banting that's brand new for us called the Bobcat Dens. And we're working with students. One of our theories of action is if we have professional development and training that it's applied to students' academic and social emotional development, then teachers will be prepared to deliver effective instruction while building community and classroom relationships. Students have to be at the right point. We're trying to build that on the universal level by having these Bobcat Dens. A Bobcat Den is a group of students from 5-year-old kindergarten through 5th grade, mixed group of kids, 10 kids, that go to meet with a person one time a month and develop relationships with other people in the community that are not in their same grade. It is awesome to see the 5th graders working with the kindergartners and then talking about things like anti-bullying, or talking about things like growth mindset, talking about things that make them better learners. It's great. We have everybody involved in the Bobcat Dens in our building. On the upper left, you'll see a teacher. She's with her Bobcat Den. In the lower right, that is our custodian, Steve Model. He's with his Bobcat Den. On the left-hand side, that's me. I'm with my Bobcat Den. And on the right, these are 2 students in my Bobcat Den, a 5th grader working with a very shy, brand new student to our school that's a kindergartner. So just one way to really build community. And when you have great community going on at all levels in your building, students learn better. So that's just one last thing that I wanted to share. I don't know if you have any questions.
Sure. So the technology of teaching reading has definitely changed from the way it used to be to the way it is now. Is that correct?
I would say yes, absolutely.
Okay. What is it that's changed?
So we have 2 of the model classroom teachers that, if you're talking about technology specifically, 2 of the model classroom teachers that you saw were from Banting.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that I know if I talk about Kaylee, who is one of the teachers, she is using the Conferring app to gather information about her students. If I'm talking, that's a 1st grade teacher, and that's one way that I know she's using it. If I'm talking about Marlene Figueroa, she sends her students many assignments via Classroom, and then is able to give them immediate feedback to move them forward in their growth. So it's not just replacing something, it's allowing them to do things differently and then giving them feedback on that.
Wow.
So Marlene Figueroa is also the head of student council, and she has our 5th graders in student council creating videos for the whole school on community. So once a month they create like almost like a news broadcast like you saw earlier, and is presented to the whole school. So I think there's a variety of different ways where that technology is integrated.
And
That's
it
not necessarily with reading, but
Right,
in other
right.
ways.
It appears to me that, the district does a pretty good job of providing professional development, but you have to provide it continuously in your building, correct?
Yes, and I think that our technology, the people that are on our Vanguard committee, which is basically the technology committee, assist with that. Our coaches, both math and literacy coaches, also assist with that. And also, they're continuously asking for feedback on the type of professional development. For instance, with the comprehensive literacy model, we're going to be asking teachers, what's an area that you feel like you need to refine your skills on, and then we build the professional development off of that.
Wonderful. Questions, comments? I check.
Thank you. Mary, when you said when you gave the examples of the thoughtful logs, that was just one example.
Yes, I didn't want to I had 3 examples in, and I said, don't worry, I'm not going to put all those, I'll just take one. I was trying to take an easy, concrete example to walk you from the beginning to the end.
Because a school doesn't do as well as yours with just thoughtful logs, but that's just one example.
That's just taking you through the steps with one example, because I
Okay.
thought it would be easiest.
Okay. Can you just mention a couple others? You don't have to go all through them, but if someone wanted to know how your school became so successful, they might know just by the name of what you're saying or what you're doing. So could you just name a couple?
So some of the other things workshop, we said, what is it?
So if the board wanted to come and visit sometime and see the great things, just stop in any time because it's happening all day long, is there? Okay. Okay.
But primarily reading and math?
We had specifically
Okay.
but
Okay, across the board. Okay, great.
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Sorry, one last thing.
Yes,
Sonia.
go
Thank
right
you.
ahead.
And just remind us again how many free and reduced lunch kids that students are, I don't know what I'm saying.
Percentage.
Yes, thank you. Over 50%. Excellent.
Wow. And when you talk about initiation, I would assume that's the very beginning.
just the start.
Just the start, okay. And institutionalization is when it's already operating in a classroom.
It's the way we do this.
Okay.
So for instance, when
I don't.
right, so it was,
What are some other skills other than thoughtful logs? Okay.
our guided math groups,
Okay.
and the language workshop,
Sure.
if we came in 2013 and we said, we're going to implement comprehensive
Wow. And what was the one thing?
well, the thing we started out with was thoughtful,
Okay.
and then we built on that.
Okay. Very good. So you understand that, teachers have a way of learning just like kids. That's right. Don't do it all at once. Absolutely. Okay.
I also want to say that the Banting staff all Waukesha teachers aren't hard workers.
No.
And just being in that school,
Well, and you, as their leader, recognize that and make that possible. Don't forget that. Yes, Mr. Dietz.
I know you put in perspective the state report card, but you were one of 4 schools in the district that received the 5-star highest rating on that report card. So I want to congratulate you, your staff, your parents, your students for the achievement that you demonstrated on that particular measure. Did a great job. Thank you. And I saw a lot of other things too that tell me that great things are happening at Banting. So thank you.
Thank you for that, Greg. Okay, any other comments or questions? Well, thank you. And I'm going to come visit, and I'm going to see it in action.
And don't forget, we have our coming up. I'll be letting all of you know about that, inviting you to come share with all the community members that come.
Oh.
Of course, when you come, you've been there before, as you have served. You can always come in your pajamas, because it's pajama day as well.
Sure.
But a great time to read and share reading.
When is that?
I think it's March 3rd this year, but I'll get an invitation out to you.
Okay, good, good. That's great. Yeah, it's a lot of fun to do that. Thank you so much, and congratulations on doing a phenomenal job of implementing that.
Thanks so much for your support.
Thank you. Okay, that brings us to the end of our agenda. Does anyone else have anything else they want to bring forward? Okay, otherwise then, our next Teaching and Learning Committee meeting will be Tuesday, February 6th, 2018, 6 o'clock, right here. Thank you very much, and the meeting is adjourned.